hear the wonderful recording announcement, and then Desiree can go ahead and advance the slide and we'll get this started. Alrighty, so just for today, our lineup includes doing a just general watershed overview for some of y'all who are new and new to the watershed, or just maybe haven't been with us for a while. We'll just kind of give a brief overview of our current contract, and then we'll also dive more in depth to our tasks that we have some of our subcontractors working on. So the San Marcos Greenbelt Alliance and the City of San Marcos will go through all of the tasks that they have been working on since 2020. And then the Mermaid Society of Texas will go through all of the tasks that they have been working on as well. The second to last topic for the day will be a Texas Parks and Wildlife Department Recreational Trails Grant announcement and update. And then lastly, I will leave you all with ways to get involved in the watershed if you're interested. All right, so starting off with Tcq Implementation Phase One, Round 2, and this is Round 2 because this is actually our second Phase 1 contract. They kind of overlapped a little bit, but one is more focused on a specific area of the watershed, which we'll go over today. And our prior contract was a little bit more of a general overview of tasks within the watershed. So we'll cover this next. Next slide. All right, so for our implementation phase 1, round 2 overview, we started this contract in June of 2020. So at pretty much, not too far after peak pandemic, and have kind of had to shift things a little bit because of that. But the main tasks that are included in this grant is riparian and upland restoration, stream restoration, vegetative filter strips, and those are all going to be specifically within the Sesame Creek sub-watershed, and we'll show you guys a beautiful map of that as well in a few slides. And then we have a very, very heavy, or also community trail plan is included in that as well. And then we have a very heavy education and outreach part of this contract specifically. And that is where Mermaid Society and the San Marcos Greenbelt Alliance and City of San Marcos come into play. So highlighted here are all of our partners that are on this contract specifically. This is a 319 Tcq funded grant. So having a whole bunch of partners definitely helps us get funded. But the partners that are highlighted are the partners that are actively helping us work on this grant and execute all of our Tcq deliverables. All right, and just a map of the watershed for those who aren't familiar. We have 4 sub-watersheds within the Upper San Marcos River Watershed Protection Plan. And then our main focus for this contract specifically, like I said, is going to be the Sesame Creek sub-watershed in regards to all of our restoration work that's taking place. Outreach work is pretty much wherever the draw comes in, and wherever Mermaid Society and then SMGA and City of San Marcos too can reach. So no shortage there. Next slide. Okay, so now we're going to turn it over to our Sesame Creek Natural Area Restoration Updates task. Melanie, Eric, and Paul will be leading this. So I'm going to ask you guys, if y'all can, to unmute yourselves and then also turn on your cameras. I see Eric and Melanie, y'all are good. Paul, your camera is off. And if y'all can just start by introducing yourselves to everybody.
Okay, this is Melanie Howard. I'm the Habitat Conservation Plan Manager. Work for the City of San Marcos and Texas State, and I work in partnership with
Eric Weeks, Discovery Center Coordinator with the City of San Marcos.
Paul Murray, Secretary Treasurer of the San Marcos Greenbelt Alliance.
So we are starting with this slide, which Aspen just walked through with you, and you can see the additional detail she's added for the tasks for the Sesame Creek watershed are the dates in which we have accomplished them or will be accomplishing them. This is Sesame Creek watershed is the smallest, obviously, of the 4 watersheds of the upper reach of the San Marcos River, which is exactly why we wanted to tackle it, because it's something that we could cut our teeth on and actually accomplish. And it's been going great, and we'll tell you about it. Next slide. I want to show you this slide because where the blue star is a natural area, the area that we are working on restoring. It's the acreage, the public park that the City of San Marcos owns. But you can see on the bottom part of the map is Texas State University, and then on the upper part is the upper part of LBJ, and that is a lot of impervious cover. This poor little watershed is highly urbanized, and therefore Sesame Creek itself has been degraded by a lot of flash flooding, sending a lot of sediment into the San Marcos River. And so that is the purpose of the restoration work that we've been doing. Next slide.
Okay, so task 3 is the riparian restoration. So that covers this area in, what is this, like a beige color? So in this area, we have used the logs, the trunks of the removed invasive trees, and we laid them along contours to try to stabilize those slopes. We've also removed all the woody invasives, and then we've also seeded the areas with native seed. Next slide. These are some of the pictures of that work. So we've got Paul's on the right in that picture removing invasive bamboo. We've also removed ligustrum, which was the dominant invasive species in the natural area. We've also removed chinaberry, Chinese tallow, paper mulberry, tree of heaven, and Japanese honeysuckle. And like I said, those trunks you'll see in the left picture kind of laid along contour like a topo map, and that just helps stabilize those soils when you have those flash flood events. And then the larger, I guess the smaller, more branches that can't be built into a contour terrace is mulched on site. So that'll help retain the nutrients back to the soil and stabilize it some. Next slide. This is a picture of seeding efforts. So on the right, you'll see some volunteers. What we did was we cut the seed heads off of the invasive KR bluestem and bagged them up, and then we removed those grasses before we went to seed that section. The left shows a couple volunteers with some seed slingers spreading some seed. So we used some native wildflower and grass mix, and we also used a cover crop to get some initial vegetation there to hold that soil in place. We worked with Native American Seed and did a site visit and got a lot of recommendations from them. So all the seeds and methods we used to restore were from their recommendations. Next slide. And task 3 is the riparian restoration. So it shows a little bit of the plantings that we've done. So the green section of the top shows areas where we've done live plantings, and
All right, looks like they froze on us. So I'm gonna, hopefully I'm not frozen either. Hopefully it's just not my internet. Are you good? Y'all can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Everybody looks frozen because nobody was moving. But okay, so I am going to just wing this and take it over, and then if they get back to us, then we'll have them take it from there. So as
okay,
Oh, we're back.
we're back.
okay, perfect time.
Phew. Okay, next slide. Next slide.
Next slide. So this will go into more detail about those planting areas. So far we planted some Turk's Cap and also some lacy oaks and mountain laurel plantings. So what we did was we looked at plants that did well in the natural area and where areas that we could add more of a seed bank, more plants to it. Future plantings, that long strip along Sesame Drive, the really steep slope, we plan to add live root plugs in this fall. So those are going to be things like eastern gamma grass, some of the deeper rooted plants to help stabilize that steeper slope. Next slide.
Okay, so task 4, the second of our 7 listed tasks, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're focusing on, look at the blue line going through the center of the park, that's Sesame Creek, and then the blue line branching off of it heading straight north, that is Windmill Tributary. And it's really a tributary that is a result of all the impervious cover from the rooftops and the parking lots for all the apartment buildings in that watershed. And so it also is like Sesame Creek, it receives flash flooding, highly degraded banks. And so we are working on doing some live plantings where you see that purple polygon. We're gonna do some live plantings, but we have to stay 50 feet away from the center line of Windmill Trib. We're gonna stabilize those banks because of the project that's following us. It's not a WPP project, it's an HDP City of San Marcos project where they're taking out all the wastewater lines, and then they are going to go in and they're going to bring the tributary and Sesame Creek into equilibrium so it can handle the flooding that it's currently receiving. And the work that we're doing will significantly help the success of that project as well. Next slide. And here you can see just a couple of shots of Windmill Tributary, the bare slopes, and on the bottom, on the left-hand picture, and then on the upper right, you can see the wastewater line crossing Windmill Tributary. And so that's where we're going to be planting in those areas. Next slide. The other thing that we did to offset flash flooding, try to get all that stormwater infiltrated into the ground, is this is an area where you see those 3 brown or orange lines right out of the park. Above those 3 lines are some apartment complexes that are very close to the park, and they're set up kind of on a little hill. And so when the water comes off the parking lot, it really gathers there, and it has some force in it, and it was degrading that slope pretty severely. So that's an area of focus where we took those log contours that Eric was talking about earlier in the PowerPoint and really focused them. And I'll show you on the next slide pictures of what they look like. So they take the invasive tree trunks and they pile them up very tightly. They take the mulch, and the mulch goes in between them and in front of them to add, to use up all the gaps, all the space that's in there. And we did some single, like on the left-hand side, we did some single vegetative filter strips. And then on the right-hand side, you can see 2 photos of the double VFS, where you really had some fast flows. And so you can imagine the water coming down that hill, it's going to hit those, it's going to hit all that mulch, it's going to slow down, it's going to sink in, and then every time it does that, it adds sediment to that berm. And so you create a permanent berm. And so these are very effective. We've used them before. Next slide. And Paul, this is all yours.
Okay. This will be in regard to the community trail plan, which is in orange on this map. You can see it. Unfortunately, this doesn't show topographical lines, but beginning at number 2, it will gain some elevation, drop down, and then cross the main tributary. You can see they're kind of in the middle of it where the banks are fairly low, and then climb back up to the parking area in the Vi Apartments, where we have not started any work or done any flagging yet because of all the other work that's going on right now. The relocation of the sewer lines has already begun, and there's 2 large bore pits. They're close to number 4, and then also to the right of that where it shows crossing, shows the trail crossing the creek. Well, we can't do anything before that, and we'll also probably want to wait till after the bank stabilization work is done. And then we'll also have these, you can see the numbers are signs explaining what we're doing. And then number 5, we hope to build a kiosk there when it's all said and done. So we're looking forward to one day being able to get down there and work, but there's a lot of work going on there right now. I don't know if Melanie knows this, but I was just down there today, and it looks like they have actually started building, this would be the Jecker Field Services, started building the vegetative filter strips. So they've been moving some of the large mulch piles behind the log that we've got. And it looks to me that we're getting more vegetative filter strips than what we initially called for. So that'll be a really good thing. And that's all I've got on that.
So this is our last task, and really one of the most important tasks is education and outreach, letting the public know what we're doing out there and why it's a good thing. This map, which you've seen before, but focusing in on the red asterisks, those will be the locations of the signs that we are going to place as part of this grant. Next slide. The next slide shows you some of the examples. This is an example of a sign, kind of a before and after. So they're going to walk up to this sign, and we're going to talk about what this used to look like. This creek used to have this wastewater line located here and located here, and it had the degraded banks and the trees falling in, and now look at it. So that we will put this at a spot that will have by that point been restored, and we'll have a very different look than what you're going to see in these pictures. Next slide. This is, again, at this spot was this object, this concrete flume in its devastated state that it's in. And then they will be seeing, standing there, they will be seeing a restored area, but they'll be reminded of the hard work that was done and what a difference we have made. And that is it for our presentation. If there's any questions.
I don't see any questions in the chat. Feel free to pop questions in. I think Melanie and Eric and Paul are going to stay probably until the end. So any questions that y'all have, they'll be able to answer. I think something important to note too is all of the signs are going to have an English and Spanish option. And also the main trailhead sign that Paul mentioned that we want to put into a kiosk is going to have Spanish and English printed big, beautiful on it as well. And the goal is to have the signs installed before the end of the contract, which is going to be a year from now. But even though the trails might not be done yet, it's still going to have those visuals there. So then that way, once the trails and more work is done in the natural area, it'll be good to go. Good to educate everybody on all of the work that's been done and is continuing to be done and will continue to be done in the area. Let's see, I saw a Chapman. This looks great. Okay. All right, Desiree, next slide. So I just wanted to share with you guys how to get to some of the resources that it's really based on everything that Melanie and Paul just went over. So these resources are online. Let's see, I'm sharing my screen, switching over here. So if you go to uppersanmarcosriver.org, at the very top, you will see projects, and you just click on projects. Sorry, phase one. And again, we have 2 phase 1s, but you're going to go to implementation phase 1, SMGA, and Mermaid Society. So you'll click on that, and it's going to have everything that we've ever done for the project to date, and it'll have everything that we've ever done that we will be doing in the future too for the projects as well. So going down to project documents, any newsletters that we have, which we do have newsletters in this contract, so we will continue to post those newsletters here. But also our implementation documents are here. So if you want to dive into more of what the scope of work looks like for this project, you can. The community trail plan that Paul just kind of gave a summary on, there is more detail if you're interested, and pictures and all of that. And then a riparian zone restoration design plan and the vegetative filter strip design plan, which are both tasks that Melanie and Eric just went over as well. And it's a little more in-depth, design plan, maybe not as fun to some, but it includes everything that they just talked about. You guys get to see the fun part of it all being done and fancy, but if you're interested in kind of the planning behind that, all of that is public information. And then, of course, we always have our meeting documents as well. We'll post this recording here in this section. So just wanted to go through that with you guys. And again, I will pop the URL in the chat. All right, you can go to the next slide. Oh, you're on notes, Desiree. You want to go to public view. You're in presenter view. There you go. All right. In July, you're good to take it away. We're going to switch over to the Mermaid Society task for this contract, and feel free to introduce yourself before you get started, July.
Hello, everyone. I'm July Moreno, and I am the Executive Director of the Mermaid Society. Slide. Okay. I'll be talking about our programming, the Mermaid Chats and the Splash Patch program. Next slide. Here are just some of the pictures of this past October. That's Mermaid Maya out there doing her thing with the schools. We had to pivot a little bit, and it was thankfully we had a great turnout, still being invited to the schools, but obviously with precaution due to COVID. So the Mermaid Chats program started in 2017. 2017, 2018, we had some community programming that took place in the water, took place at various locations throughout the community. But it wasn't until 2019 where we actually were able to get into the schools. So we got into all elementary schools, K through second grade, and about 2,200 children were presented with the Mermaid Chat program. I'm going to kind of skip down a little bit. In 2021, obviously in 2020, we could not be in the schools. So we did not do any programming in 2020. We used that time to actually further develop our program, spend a lot of time in the creation and development of materials, and then to be ready for 2021. So this last year in 2021, in October, we were able to be in the schools once again. And those are some of the pictures that you saw earlier. That put us a little bit, typically we were supposed to be in the schools during springtime, but we could not do that. So we have to kind of push it back to October. This next year, we will try to get back to the spring again, because we'd like this program happening before summertime. So this next year in we won't be doing the programming in October of this, spring of this year. We will actually wait until spring of 2023 to do the Mermaid Chats program, because we've already done it just recently in October. Okay. And so Water PR assisted us with our materials. As you see here, we have some flashcards, we had stickers. These items were part of the kits that were given to the schools for the classes. So they're really popular. Obviously, you can see we've got Wendy, the Texas wild rice, Sally, the salamander, Sammy, the blind salamander, and so forth. And so these have been really fun. On the back of the cards are information about each of our endangered species. So they're really exciting. The stickers are fun, obviously, the same images that are used there. So we completed our tour in October 2021. Very exciting that we also created a virtual program of this. So that is in the final stages. We expect to have that completed by the end of March, is my understanding. It is also done in Spanish, and we're working on having it formatted for ASL. Next slide, please. So our patch program is pretty much the same timeline. Started in 2018. We had about 80 patches that were awarded at that time. We work with the Meadow Center. It's a half-day program. Children go, they earn their patch using criteria at each of the letters of SPLASH, which stands for Stewardship, Preservation, Local, Arts, Sustainability, and Heritage. And so they're able to earn their patch. In 2018, it was about 80. We advanced that to 2019 and about 120 patches. So that was very exciting. We do find this program to be something that is gaining a lot of interest, not just from San Marcos, but in the surrounding areas. We've done this program in Austin, and we're being asked to do it in Lockhart, and perhaps even Wimberley. So we're very excited about that. This program also, both programs actually are both supported STEAM learning. So really had a great opportunity to work with Moon Hernandez at Rodriguez Elementary, and the TCQ alignment, of course. This is the same thing too. We've done a virtual program of this. We wanted to be ready for COVID reasons. We wanted to be ready to have this option to continue the programming. Should COVID issues continue, we would have this available. So now that we have it and we are able to get into the schools, this is now something that we can utilize to have the schools actually download this program and use it in their schools and other, community organizations that would benefit from that. We're getting ready for the the summer of this year. So June, July, and August, we will be coordinating this Splash Patch program here at Wonder World, in addition to the Meadow Center. Next slide, please. So here it is, just the programming, the virtual production, very exciting. We worked with the Lions. Those are obviously their tubes. So really excited to see this video completed. We'll have it up on our website as well. So you'll have access to that. Next slide, please. Very exciting here. So some of the added eco education activity, we started a book program, and Wimberley, Martindale, and San Marcos libraries are going to be getting books that are gifted to Mermaid Society for this program. And although it starts now in February, and we've been collecting the books that have been being mailed to us, this is a really all year, anytime, opportunity for people to gift the books to us so that we can then deliver to the libraries. They become the property of the libraries. So we're really excited about that. We'll be delivering these books this next week during Valentine's week. So very excited about that. They're all a little bit of mermaid stuff, but mostly eco education type books. The image to the right here is what is going to be ready to go public. We will have these printed. They're about the size of 11 by 18, I believe. These are placemats. There's a front and a back, and obviously it's, some fun for children to have, and they will be located, available in restaurants in various locations in San Marcos. So just another way to get that eco education out there. Again, they're printed on the front and the back, and these should be out, I would say, no later than the end of March. We want to shoot for mid-March. So we're really excited about that as well. And this is just a statement here from art teacher Bridget Jones. So overall, we're very excited. As I mentioned, we are getting several requests when we post on our Facebook page about this programming that comes from outside of San Marcos. So we're really excited about that opportunity to grow this programming even beyond San Marcos. So we're well on our way. Any questions?
Not seeing any questions in the chat, July. Go ahead and advance to the next slide, Desiree, and I can share my screen, July, and I'm just going to take them through how to get to the Youth Eco Programming page. Sure. Let's see. Right. So you go to Mermaid Society, smtx.com. You'll hit this homepage here, and under what we do, Youth Eco Programming is the very first one. And if you want to give them kind of a recap of the page, July.
Sure. So this is obviously our Youth Eco Programming page. If you scroll down right there, if you want to volunteer, there's a button right there. It takes you right to the page. On that page, if you click on that, Aspen, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Here are our committee meeting dates. Our first one this year will be March 3rd. at 6 o'clock. And so you can print this, send it out, but we do have several individuals that are very interested in being part of this committee, so we're very excited about that. There are some goals that we want to put in place and work towards, you know, short and long-term goals for this programming. I'm going to get out of that. And then this just gives you a good summary of our programming, you know, what it's for, you know, how it actually rolls out. So you can use that information. Further down, some pics. Further down. And then you can click on either one of these, and that gives you a little bit more specific information about the programming itself. And this is obviously where people can request to have Mermaid Maya come out. So it's really at this point Mermaid Maya and friends, because we have a good crew actually now being recruited to, so that we're in more places at one time. So that's very exciting as well.
In July, do I have it correct too that the virtual programming will be on this page?
Yes,
as well?
it will be. Yes.
Okay. Perfect. So yeah, so just from the homepage, what we do is eco programming.
And if you click to the second one, if you don't mind, Aspen.
Yeah,
The
Ecoguardian.
Eco, yeah. So this is the Ecoguardian book program. You can see some of the books that have already been donated. Very easy. We have the Amazon link there, but of course you can use your own Amazon link. And we're accepting books, or you can drop them off at the office, or we can pick them up, whatever.
Awesome program. Okay, I saw a couple of chats come in. Let's see. Excited to share those eco education resources with my nieces and nephews. Awesome work. Love the restaurant placemats. Good feedback. Okay, and you're in presenter view again, Desiree. All right, and I'm gonna put the Mermaid Society URL as well in the chat, so you guys should have it. All right, if y'all have any questions for July 2, I think she's gonna stick around for a little bit, so feel free to pop them in. Thanks, July, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, so moving on to our next topic, we have the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department Recreational Trails Grant. So it's actually been some time since we've been awarded this, but I don't think we've officially had a Upper San Marcos public meeting since this has actually been awarded. So officially announcing it at a watershed meeting, a public watershed meeting. And go ahead and advance to the next slide, Desiree. So we were awarded the Trails Grant, and the timeline of the grant is 2021 to 2023. And there is some flexibility with this, of course, you know, being in the world of a pandemic still. And TPWD just does a really good job of allowing to any additional time that may arise when it comes to any big construction projects. So currently in the design phase, but our ultimate plans is to restore the lakeside trails at Spring Lake. I'm sure most, if not all of you, have been to Spring Lake and have seen our lovely, uneven, bumpy trails that are made of beautiful crushed granite that just gets dumped into the lake every time it rains. Also, we have accumulation of some good old puddles on the trails as well. So our goal is to completely remove that, and I say all of that really sarcastically, but our goal is to remove all of the crushed granite and then replace it with kind of a mix of different surfaces. So we want to do from the visitor center all the way to the boat dock is going to be kind of that boardwalk platform. So if y'all have been to the wetlands here on property, it's going to be pretty much the exact same. We did have the university do a pretty in-depth analysis to see if it would be possible to do permeable pavers all the way through, but with just that amount of runoff that comes in that area and the amount of fall cypress trees that we have, it just wasn't deemed feasible. But there are still some benefits to what we're doing and what we're replacing it with. So it'll be about 700 feet of boardwalk. And then in the area by the restrooms and the visitor center is going to be completely permeable pavers. So that's about 200 feet of permeable pavers, and that area is not as low level either. So it's not as low in elevation. So it's not getting a huge amount of runoff. A lot of that runoff kind of goes around and hits the boat dock area and kind of on your way to the boat docks as well. So that area was deemed feasible by Texas State to be able to put in permeable pavers. So we're excited for that. We're excited to be able to just kind of put some pervious cover down. Even though it is a little bit of a maintenance, it's also a great educational tool, especially right by our visitor center where people come and buy their glass bottom boat tickets or check in for field trips. And we have students that are going to be walking on it as they come in. So that is the goal. And we are in, like I said, this is kind of the baby stages of this grant. And we are currently just kind of doing a more in-depth analysis with Texas State University. There's a lot that needs to go into play, even more analysis that need to get done. And we're grateful because Texas State University actually matched this project to make the permeable pavers happen. So really excited for that and really grateful for that as well. And there's a lot of benefits that come with this project. So accessibility, being able to accommodate ADA compliance is huge. And, we have future goals to even make our boats hopefully one day ADA compliant. So that's just kind of bringing just one step into, getting all people to the boat dock. And then from there, our goal would be in the future to hopefully even take it a step further and, no longer have our boat tours limited to just certain people. So increasing accessibility, also increasing infiltration. So especially with those permeable pavers, being able to increase the amount of runoff rainwater that is just being soaked in, slowing it down, a lot of, runoff, high runoff area. So you're having a lot of velocity just kind of moving through. And then we also we're going to increase the riparian areas. So the goal is to move the current walkway just back a little bit. So that'll allow for the riparian zone to have a bigger buffer, hopefully too in the future, being able to kind of replant and add in some more just riparian plants in general and beef it up a little bit. And so being able to kind of give that more of a buffer, kind of move folks back just a little bit, not too far away. They'll still be able to see the lake. I know that's what everybody does when they come here, but just try and preserve the riparian area as much as possible. And then of course, with any project, we want to make sure we have some outreach components, whether that's integrating it into our field trips or also beefing up some of our outreach components with those as well. Especially when it comes to the riparian zones, a lot of people aren't familiar with grow zones and why you should actually not walk on grow zones. So that will be kind of a goal that we have as well. Again, our estimated timeline right now to even start construction is probably going to be late this year, if not early next year. All right, I see. Are you putting something permanent in front of the boat cage where it gets really muddy? Nothing permanent that I'm aware of. Again, we are still kind of like, assessing where are we even going to like put all of the platforms, boardwalks, what kind of route we want to take with it. And so all of it is still kind of, in that design phase right now. All right, happy to answer any other questions about this too. We're excited for it to finally break ground. This has been a project, for those who don't know, that was on the Watershed Protection Plan, is on the Watershed Protection Plan as a goal, as a management measure. So we're excited that it's finally happening and that we've got money to make it happen as well. So for those who don't know, 319 funds from TCQ fund a lot of the projects that we've talked about today, but definitely not all of the projects that are going on in the watershed as a whole. A lot of different grants and groups and organizations are doing kind of a combined effort and making all of that happen. So are these pavers or are you still looking at permeable pour type product, the one? So we're going to do the permeable pavers, opted out of the porous pave. I believe that's what you're talking about, Jim. So we're sticking to permeable pavers just because the university knows more about permeable pavers too, and we know more about the maintenance and things of the permeable pavers. So that was the route we decided to go, which unfortunately it is a little bit more expensive, but I think maintaining it will be a little bit easier. All right, next slide. All right, so get involved. So there's a lot of stuff happening in the watershed. So I wanted to give a shout out to all those things that are going on, but also ways that y'all can get involved in some of the projects that we talked about today too. Next slide. All right, so first, the SMGA and City of San Marcos have natural area volunteer opportunities. So Eric and Melanie were going through the Sesame Creek natural area and all of the seeding and planting and invasive removal that has been happening. And there's ways that you can actually get involved in that directly. So I will share this link in the chat so you'll have it. That way, if you're interested, you can sign up. Where'd my chat box go? Okay, there you go.
Aspen, you can just tell them to go to smgreenbelt.org. There is a join donut button that they can push and put in their information right from there.
All right, I put both of those URLs in the chat. Thanks, Paul. So these happen once a month. I believe they're the second Saturday of every month as well. And really focusing on upkeep of these natural areas, not always going to be in the Sesame Creek natural area, but that is the focus moving forward. The next volunteer event is actually going to be this Saturday. Last time I checked the sign up link, I think it was like only 2 more spots are open. So that may be closed now, but feel free to check it out. And correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, on those dates too.
So yeah, all the slots filled up for this Saturday, but we'll have future opportunities. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. But they happen every month, so
yes,
no worries.
There'll be more
opportunities. Thanks, appreciate that. So if you're interested, feel free to go up to the sign up Genus or to the SM Trail or greenbelt.org website too. Again, they happen every month, so plenty of opportunity to get involved and get hands-on experience with maintaining natural areas. Anything I'm missing, Eric? Good.
If you want to, you can keep an eye on that sign up Genus link, or you can send me an email and I can add you to our monthly email blast. And that gives you more information for future opportunities once they become available. I could type my email in the, oh, you beat me to it, yeah. So if you're interested in volunteer events, just shoot me an email and I can add you to that list, and that way you can see all the updates as they come.
Sounds good, thank you. All right, next slide. Okay, so another big part of my job is I work on the Texas Stream Team program, and it's also one of our largest partners that we have within the program too. So I wouldn't be doing a service to Texas Stream Team if I didn't do a little bit of a shout out. So we have ways where you can get involved in water quality monitoring in the watershed directly. River Rangers is going to be our group that is here in San Marcos. So if you're interested in getting certified to be able to then go and get some hands-on experience with water quality monitoring, here are all of the trainings that are coming up this semester. And if you also have any questions, feel free. You can reach out to River Rangers at San Marcos river.org if you have any questions about the trainings, and for also to register as well. And feel free to check out our main Texas Stream Team website if you just want to learn more about the program, texasstreamteam.org. And the data that is collected with the Texas Stream Team program is also used for the Watershed Protection Plan. And we've done an integrated data analysis report with that data as well. So it's data you're helping to contribute, and that is actually being used for watersheds as well. All right, next slide. Okay, so also wanted to do a plug for the Edwards Aquifer Habitat Conservation Plan and Meadow Center fieldwork opportunities, volunteer opportunities. So the Edwards Aquifer Habitat Conservation Plan has the Meadow Center contracted, or through the City of San Marcos, contracted to really focus on aquatic habitat restoration in the Upper San Marcos River directly. And all of this is outlined in the Habitat Conservation Plan itself. So if you want to get experience with some hands-on, field work, being able to remove invasive species, helping with planting wild rice, there are volunteer opportunities that way as well. You can reach out to Colin, who wrote at cjg115@txstate.edu. I will say this volunteer work is pretty labor intensive, also pretty dirty. So if you're willing to get involved and get your hands dirty and you don't care how messy you may come out of it, it's a great opportunity just to get that hands-on experience. And feel free to share this with all of these opportunities too with y'all's networks as well. All right, next slide. Okay, and then the last one is Keep San Marcos Beautiful. There is monthly hotspot cleanups with the city's habitat conservation plan and resource recovery department, or Keep San Marcos Beautiful is a joint offer to get involved in the community, being able to clean up, litter and micro litter as well that's in the watershed and directly affecting the San Marcos River. So those are offered, I believe, the first Saturday of each month to remove litter. And you can contact Amy Tomides for more information on monthly hotspot cleanups. They change each month, so you don't have to do the same thing every time. And you're also just helping different areas in the watershed as well. If you're interested in getting a group together, there's also a way to get set up with an adopt-a-spot, and you and a group can get together and clean like a set site that's available in the city. And it's a really great opportunity. And if you clean it like 6 times, you get a designated sign for your organization, which is nice. And then last but not least, hopefully everybody knows about this, but the annual Great Texas River Cleanup is coming March 5th, 2022. Like, I think less than a month away now. It's back in full throttle. The river cleanup is back in full throttle. It's going to be completely, no limits as far as how many people can join and help, which we all know the watershed could use. So if you're interested, please sign up. I do have the link here handy, and I will pop it in the chat as well for y'all. But it's a huge event thrown by the city. Oh, somebody already did it. Cool. Thanks, Eric. Appreciate it. So it's a huge event that the city throws every single year, annual Great Texas River Cleanup. And I've had the pleasure of working through it and also being a volunteer. And it brings in hundreds and hundreds of people, and a whole bunch of waste is diverted from our rivers. So, and also diverted to our recycling services as well. So feel free to spread the word and help out your community. All right, next slide. Okay, and here's all of our contact information, everybody who talked today, all of our email addresses, phone numbers, and we are going to stick around for a little bit. So if you have any questions or if you want to unmute your mics, it's all we have today. So feel free to do so, and we'll hang back until about 6.
I do want to say that Eric's email is .gov at the end.
Oh, did I put,
what did I put?
Okay, thanks. I was in my website URL mode. Thank you. Appreciate that. And it looks like Eric corrected me too. And then Virginia also submitted in the chat too that this Sunday is Smurf's annual members meeting at 2:00 p.m. and you can register through the link that she shared in the chat as well too. Thanks for sharing that, Virginia. And feel free, if you want to give a little kind of summary of what to expect, you're more than welcome to do so.
Thanks. I've got Moana going on in the background so that my kids are happy. So, I've got a couple things. We do have the annual meeting this weekend. We're going to get everyone out by the time Super Bowl hits. So we will not interrupt that very important time for a lot of people. But we will be talking a lot about land conservation, and I'm going to have a few new compelling slides, which is pretty exciting. And we also, something else I'll just point out is that we do have a public meeting on February 27th or 28th at 7. And that's for the Walton wastewater treatment permit for TCQ. And the public meeting is the first step in a very long process. We settled 2 wastewater treatment permits last year, and this one is a really big one for this year. So we do hope to get a lot of turnout. So I'll put that link in the, well, it's a really long link. If you want it, let me know. I will send you all the details.
Virginia, can you send that to me through email, and I can share it on all of our platforms too, put it on our calendars?
Yeah, it's a big deal. Thanks.
Of course. All right, we got about 6 minutes. Thank you guys for coming. Again, we are recording this, and I'm actually going to stop the recording now that I remember.